Anybody else?
I have a question. This is Coleman. Doc, thank you for being with us tonight. This vaccine, do we have to take this vaccine every year? Or is this a one-shot deal?
Yeah, it still remains to be seen. I'm not going to come on here and lie to you and say that this is a one-shot thing and you'll never have to take it again. It is very possible. Like, I'm already getting my mind ready that this may end up becoming like the flu shot. Nobody has said that so far. Right now, it looks like this one shot may be able to cover us, but it seems like that's the direction that things are heading. And so I'm not trying to mislead anybody. I'm not coming out here lying. And I do want to give the disclaimer, I'm speaking for myself and not necessarily for Kaiser. But there's still unanswered questions. There's still some things that we're going to figure out over the coming months and years. And yeah, we're going to work together to figure that out.
Okay, thank you.
Doc, let me.
Bishop, I have a question.
I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, sir. Go right ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So,
yeah, my question, Doc, was that you said you feel good about this vaccination, but you didn't refer to, there's two different vaccinations. Which one do you feel comfortable about? Because I've heard mixed reviews on both of them. I've heard people having certain reactions, more so with the Pfizer one. I don't know, it could be the other way around. Also, I had a client who has I can't think about exactly what it is, but it happened on the left side of their body, and when they got the vaccine, gout, and they always had it on the left side of their body, and when they got the vaccine on the right side, for the first time ever, they got gout on their right side. So I'm just wondering, which vaccine are you referring to that you feel comfortable about, the Pfizer or the
Moderna?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Pfizer and Moderna were the two big vaccines. They were the two first ones that came out that most people took. I think Pfizer was the first one, and Moderna was kind of a little bit after that. And then even now, you'll hear people talk about a Johnson & Johnson vaccine, where maybe there's only one dose. I've looked at data for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. Those both to me seem very, very safe, and that I actually recommend either one of those vaccines. I do recognize it's a little bit inconvenient to have to take a shot once and then come back a few weeks for the second shot. So I can understand why somebody might be more interested in this Johnson & Johnson vaccine. That's a one-time thing. But I have no problem with the Pfizer vaccine. I have no problem with the Moderna vaccine. I can't explain what happened to your friend or your family with the gout, but it's possible that was just a flu. But I'll say, I don't know if it was you or a previous question where there was a question about side effects, and I'll acknowledge those side effects are pretty real. Based on my limited experience, it seems like younger people seem to be getting it a little bit worse. But to me, having mild side effects after the vaccine is a good thing. That means that your body is working and responding the way that it's supposed to. And so that when it actually is exposed to the virus, it's going to do what it's supposed to do.
I haven't taken both the shots for the Moderna. I didn't have any side effects other than the soreness of the arm. But I have heard people who've taken and they were kind of out for a day or two, but there's speedy recovery with that being said. So personally, I don't know. Pop, did you have any major side effects after the second shot?
I hope they can let me talk. You got to put me on hold so I can talk now. Thank you. Yes, son, I had a little bit soreness of the arm and a light fever, not nothing major. But my wife was sick for about a day. But just think about it. You were sick for a day, man, but you set for life as far as with this virus. And I tell you, that virus is one of the most horrible things I've ever dealt with. I actually wanted to kill myself. So, it's the shot, the little symptoms you have with the shot, like the doctor's saying, it's well worth it to take the shot than to be susceptible to this COVID.
And that's a disclaimer. Mom said that the reason why she was sick, that was because of you. That was not from that shot. The last thing. I thought I'd just say that.
I know we're transparent, Bishop. I know we're trying to be transparent.
Hey, Doc, Bishop Bowen.
Yeah, Doc. Yeah, Doc. I took the first shot already the Moderna, and then I'll be taking it again tomorrow. And I mean, I'm not nervous about it at all, man. And I just I think that it's a great thing compared to what can happen, and I'm excited about about taking it. My question that I have is that everybody don't have the same type of reaction to these shots. Am I right?
Right.
That's what I'm asking. I mean, what are
not,
some of the different things that happen in reference to after the second shot? What are some of the things?
Sure.
I don't know.
So it's a range, I say it's a spectrum ranging from nothing where you feel totally fine,
That's
all
the
the
one I
way
want.
to the worst thing that we've seen out of all this evidence is that there's some people who in the past have had very severe reactions to any vaccine.
Mhm.
Some of those people, there was a very small amount of people who did have a severe allergic reaction immediately after they got the vaccine. And so that's part of the reason why we watch everyone for that 15 to 30 minutes afterwards, just to make sure you're not going to have a reaction. And I do want to say, if any of you have had, a history of really bad reactions to a vaccine, that's something you should talk about with your doctor. And maybe, you think you reconsider taking the vaccine. But if you're not in that category, I strongly recommend taking the vaccine, not only to protect yourself, but really to protect the people around you. Because, think about, if you're not high risk. So for example, me, I don't consider myself a high risk individual, but, in the hospital, I'm around high risk people all the time. Plus I'm exposed to sick folks. And so I think if you're around people who are high risk and you care about them, you really got to consider getting this vaccine, not only for yourself, but for them. Just thinking about the things that you're bringing home or bringing to your family or bringing to whoever. So that's just something I wanted to add, that it's not just about you, but about the people that you're around.
All right. Any more questions from the floor before we go to the list?
Yeah, this
Just
is
one more.
I have a question.
No, you ask as many
Just
questions
ask
as you guys want, brothers. I just want to make sure we keep it going.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
This is SB. I have a question. I heard that it's another strand, a wave of strand that was detected in Africa, and this vaccine that they have now, is that going to protect us from those strands as well?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question. That's a question that in the medical community we're asking ourselves as well. So they're running the test as we speak. So the early evidence that I've seen is that the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine both provide some coverage for this new variant, but we still have to keep doing the testing and make sure. And so the stuff that's happening right now with that new variant was what was happening last year with the COVID vaccine. So while we thought maybe nothing was going on, there were people who were testing this vaccine and seeing how effective it was. And that's what's happening right now with the variants. So it still remains to be seen.
All right. Anybody else?
So once you've taken both shots, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Announce your name.
Yeah, I will.
Come on.
This is Sword. So the question I have is, once I've taken the first shot and the second shot, have there been any evidence of anyone re-getting the COVID?
Not that I've seen.
So how long are these injections supposed to last? Is it 6 months?
That also remains to be seen.
So today,
yeah, no, that's a good question.
Yeah, so to date, for record, anyone that has had single shot, double shot, they haven't recontracted the COVID.
That's right. And so if you think about the trials or when they were going on, these people were getting the vaccine last fall. Okay. So by the time we started getting the vaccine in the winter, we had watched those folks for 3 to 4 months by that point. At this point, it's been about 6 months. So it's like, I can tell you with pretty decent confidence that this will protect you for at least 6 months, but we still have to wait and see. So this is an ongoing process.
Okay. So I have another question, just without the actual taking the vaccines, but my son and daughter, my son and his wife, she contracted COVID, and my son had symptoms, but he was tested twice and he was negative, but he had the same symptoms as she did. You have any input on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think no testing is definitive. And then, from my experience before, viral illnesses were always the hardest for me to diagnose. Being able to pin down one specific virus, a lot of times I would just say, hey, your symptoms are related to some virus. So I acknowledge that there's been some oddities to me with the testing. Like, it doesn't make sense to me why one person tests positive, another person tests negative. It doesn't make sense to me why some people have mild symptoms and other people end up on the ventilator and die. It really does not make sense to me. But what I care about is protecting people and protecting the people that I care about. And so, there's a lot of unanswered questions that we're continuing to get answers to. But what I can say for sure is that this vaccine is protective from COVID. And if you happen to get severe COVID, it is devastating.
Thank you, Doc.
Let me ask you this, Doc, and this is one of the questions from the list, but you touched on a little bit, and if you can go into more detail. In your medical profession, Pfizer and Moderna are the vaccines you recommend. Why not the Johnson & Johnson's, those that would require just one shot? Why wouldn't you, and I wouldn't say stand behind them, but why wouldn't you highly recommend them?
Yeah, I just haven't looked into them as much as I've looked into the Pfizer and Moderna. So it's very possible that, I'll come back and talk to y'all next week after looking into Johnson & Johnson, and I feel just as confident about that one. But for me speaking to you today, I've done the research on the Pfizer and Moderna. I've taken the Pfizer vaccine myself. I have patients, I have friends and family who've taken both vaccines. So I feel very confident in both of those. The Johnson & Johnson, I just haven't had a chance to look into yet.
Okay. All right. Another question, and again, brothers, if you all have some that's burning, then please feel free to ask. One that I think from the list that I'd like you to explore, Doc, is what happens, and it's kind of comical, but nevertheless, it's an important question. Fella gets the first shot, right? And for whatever reason, he doesn't go back to get the second shot. Where does he stand in reference to being able to contract COVID?
Yeah, you could argue that it's hard for me to say exactly, but let's say, for example, you're 95% protected with both shots. You could argue that you're like half protected with one shot.
Got you.
Some of the numbers I've seen were in like the 60% range, but again, it's hard to say for sure.
Got you. Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was reading something where it affects people who are either dealing with cancer or going through cancer treatment different than anyone else. Is that true, or is that shown in any type of situations?
I have not seen that. I'm actually like personally interested in cancer, so it's something I've looked into a little bit, but I have not seen any specific illness groups like cancer or diabetes or high blood pressure. I have not seen any worse side effects in certain groups compared to other groups. The only thing is what I brought up earlier, which was people who just have a history of really severe reactions to vaccines.
Doc, there has been talk about, and there's so much stuff out there, man, on social media. I mean, the conspiracy theories. The craziest one I saw was if you eat 2 bananas every day, you'll never catch COVID. And I mean, and there were people who were commenting on this, right? Talking about the importance. One fella said, just go sit in the sun. Pastor Bowen and I got a friend who said, if y'all sit in the sun, you get vitamin D, you ain't got to worry about COVID. So there's so much stuff. My question to you is, when we talk about the vaccine and we know the danger and how deadly COVID has been, what would you say to the brother who's apprehensive simply because there's been so much, back play or talk back, or bad blood would be the word I'd like to use, bad blood in reference for the medical field and the Black African man. I say that because, and it may be higher now, but I remember there was talk that like only with the African American community, only when it comes down to the vaccine, we're like maybe less than 5% of the people who are getting vaccinated. So what do you say to that?
You know, that scares me. It worries me because I mentioned before that more of us are dying, but significantly less of us are taking that vaccine. So I'm just scared. Like, uh-oh, you know, what is that going to mean a few weeks from now or a few months from now? Because I compared it recently to, imagine if Black folks decided we just were not going to social distance. You know, we'll wear our masks, we'll get the vaccine, but we're going to rub all up on each other and stand right next to each other all the time. That would almost seem a little bit crazy. And even though we don't know for sure if we would die from holding hands or if we would die from, you know, shaking hands with strangers, it's not really something we would do just because there's that unknown risk. And so that's the way I feel about the vaccine, even with all the hoopla and the conspiracy theories. You know, at some point you have to think for yourself and kind of think big picture. I'm not coming out here saying that this vaccine is the one thing that will save your life. It's just part of it. You know, similar to if you were somebody who were having heart attacks. You know, if you never exercised and ate terribly, but you told me, oh, I'm gonna stop smoking. Stopping smoking is great, but that's not gonna be the one thing that saves your life. And so I think about this vaccine in the same way. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. There's a lot of different opinions for whatever reasons. But all of us, especially as men, as leaders of our families, as leaders in our communities, have to think about it for ourselves and make our own decision. And this is just one part of it. We're still going to have to keep distancing, still going to have to keep wearing masks for the time being. But I think this vaccine is a big part of us doing our part.
Jesus Christ is the light. He's the light. He's the light. Healed by his stripes. Paid the price for you and me. The victory is won. Brighter than the sun, and his love is